Namo Namaha friends, I am RRK. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things bookish. In this video, I'll be talking about all the books that I managed to complete in the month of July. But before I start with my July wrap-up, let me categorically accept that at this point, my TBR or to be read is a joke. And doing a TBR video seems to be an utterly futile exercise. Now you may ask why. That's because my brain seems to think of the TBR as a bypass mechanism. Any book that's in the TBR, it doesn't want to read it. So I realized my brain rebels when I try to do the TBR thing. So this month I am just going to go rogue as I have been doing all these months and simply pick up whatever I like. I might still have a loose TBR, but I probably might not label it as such and create a video on it. I also do have a secret TBR that I have been planning to get to. Let's see if I manage to complete that. You will get a video on those books soon enough, keeping my fingers crossed to see it through. Now, based on my rants, you must have guessed that I did abysmally with my July TBR goals. I had chosen the following books: City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, Wolf in the Vale by, I think, Jordan Bodansky, and Never Die by Rob J. Hayes, also Burning Throne by Ashok K. Banker. I also had chosen 3 thrillers: Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams, Survive the Night by Riley Sager, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson, and I also had chosen a Indian non-fiction named Jugalbandi by Vinay Sitapati. I didn't touch any of the fantasy books in the list. I finished all the thrillers, so woohoo. Then yes, I finished the Indian non-fiction as well, the reviews of which I will get to in a moment. Now let's see the other books that I managed to complete this month. I recently completed 3 books in a series, which I will cover in a separate video where I'll review the entire series, so do keep a lookout for that video. I also completed 2 romance novels and a fantasy. So let's start with the lone fantasy novel that I managed to complete this month, that is The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. Now, this is the second book in the Life Ship Traders trilogy, which in turn is a part of the Realm of Elderlings series, which is a 16-book long series. Now, I read Ship of Magic last month and was captivated by the world and Robin Hobb's fascinating writing style. She truly is a genius, especially the way she weaves relationship dynamics into the story. She is amazing. Ship of Magic is set in a world where ships are made of the wood called wizard wood that comes alive after 3 generations of captains from its owner's family die on board the ship. Now, live ships are the only ships that can travel through the rain-wild rivers, so they are extremely valuable and the families take generations to pay back the loans that they have used in acquiring the ship. In Ship of Magic, we saw a few perspectives of the family members of the ship called Vivacia. The family ship is called Vivacia. Then the perspective of Paragon, who's a mad ship abandoned by his family, and some serpents as well. Now, in Mad Ship, we continue with their perspectives. We get more of the Rainwalders' history as well as the serpents. We also see a little twist in the pirate story. I gave this book 4.5 stars and I enjoyed this book as much as the first one, if not more. I'll continue with the series for sure because now I am even more interested in knowing the stories of Paragon, Vivacia and Amber. Next, I read 2 romance novels. One is Go Deep by Rilzy Adams, which is more of a novella than a novel because it's barely 131 pages. It's a friends to lover kind of a story. Navaya is an erotic novel writer who finds herself in a creative rut, and readers are exceedingly finding her writing to have lost its charm. To bring back her mojo, she gets into a sexual pact with her lifelong best friend Xander. It was okay, it delivered what it promised to, and I have no complaints. I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Voyeur by Fiona Cole. This is a taboo relationship between teacher and student. The heroine works in a club where clients pay to watch employees engaging in solo or coupled sexual acts, hence the name Voyeur, and our hero is a client there. Now the hero realizes that he teaches a class that our heroine attends, and the story takes off from there. This story was surprisingly good, and the author has handled sensitive matters in a tasteful manner. Such topics can easily go into a sleazy territory if not handled well, and I was glad that didn't happen here. So I gave this 4.25 stars. Now, let's quickly wrap up the thriller novels that I completed last month. The first one is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. Oh my god. The book definitely deserves all the praises it gets. Despite getting released in 2005, especially posthumously, it's still going strong. If that isn't proof of how good this book is, I do not know what is. The story is simple. A business tycoon hires a financial journalist who's recently fallen into disrepute to investigate the case of his missing niece. Though the journalist Michael is mystified as to why he is hired instead of a private investigator or the police, he still gets on board with this impossible task of solving a decades-old case. Now, he hires a tattooed and antisocial but brilliant girl named Lisbeth to help him with his research. Together, they unravel the mystery that's managed to stay hidden for decades. Now, first of all, Stieg Larsson's writing. It was top-notch. He had a way of making even dense topics accessible to a common reader. I also must credit the translator, Reg Keeland, for his excellent job. This could have been easily botched up, but it wasn't, and I was glad for that. Second, I didn't expect the sensitivity with which Larsson has handled characters in his story. Usually, it is taken for granted that male authors focus on plot while female authors write exceptional characters. We all have heard of this typical author stereotypes that male authors only write female characters to objectify them and that female authors scrimp on the world building. But let's be honest. Have you not seen enough exceptions to this rule with authors like Stieg Larsson, Robin Hobb, N.K. Jemisin, etc.? Third, Stieg Larsson's handle on technology and the way he has used it in his story. This is 2005 we are talking about, and he has written about hacking, espionage, etc. And as a person from the computer background, I was fascinated by it. He was well ahead of his time. Sadly, his early death must have been a huge loss for the authors and readers community. I gave this book 4.5 stars, and yes, I plan on continuing with the series. Then I read Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams. As I mentioned in my July TBR video, No Exit by Taylor Adams was one of my favorite books from 2019, and it still is one of my favorite thrillers of all time. So when I read Hairpin Bridge, naturally my opinions were colored by my experience of reading No Exit. Hence, I was a little disappointed by Hairpin Bridge. In Hairpin Bridge, we follow the story of twin sisters, Lena and Camry. Apparently, Camry committed suicide on Hairpin Bridge. But Lena refuses to believe that her estranged sibling could do such a thing. Her doubts are crystallized even more when she realizes that Camry's body was found by the same cop who had stopped her for a speeding ticket an hour before her death. So Lena decides to investigate, and what follows is a cat and mouse story where each of them tries to one up the other. Now, though the story was as fast-paced as No Exit, I sort of got a whiplash from the breakneck speed of the narrative, especially because the entire story takes place over just a few hours. Also, I couldn't connect with the Camry character. Initially, I was least bothered with her character, but over time, I disliked her, and I especially find it difficult to like a story if the main character doesn't appeal to me. Lena was a badass and I enjoyed her parts in the story, but Camry's distinct bad flavor spoiled the entire thing for me. This book, in short, was fast and messy, and I gave it 3 stars. The last book in the thrillers list was Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I had requested this arc, that is advanced reader's copy, as I had liked his other book, Lock Every Door. This book was everything I expected and more. I have written a detailed review of this novel in my blog, and I will link that post in the description box below. So look it up if you like. Charlie is a college student who, after a terrible personal tragedy, decides to quit college and go back to her native place to heal and recover. Now, she goes to the notice board to find a driving companion to take her back home. There, she enlists the help of Josh, who's a complete stranger, to drive her back home. The term stranger danger takes a whole new meaning when she realizes she has no clue who this man is, and she isn't sure if she is leaving the danger of the campus serial killer or traveling with one. So though I guessed the murderer early on, it was a super entertaining and thrilling ride. Highly recommend this novel. Riley Sager fans will eat this thing up for sure. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Then I read the lone Indian non-fiction of this month, which was Jugalbandi by Vinay Sitapati. This was an enlightening book on the days before the now hyped up duo of the current PM Narendra Modi and Amit Shah. This is the story of Vajpayee and Advani, who were projected as the power duo of their times. This book was insanely interesting to me because I wasn't aware of any of the political machinations of their time. I was not even born for the majority of the timeline, and the later parts either I was too young to follow or was just too wrapped up in my own world that I never paid attention to the political undercurrents of that time. The author starts off almost from the time Congress was formed during the pre-independence time and takes it to conclusion till Modi's rise as the PM of India. I was surprised by many facts from the British time of our history, also the genesis of RSS and other Hindutva factions. I especially liked how none of the content was dry, as you might expect from a non-fiction book, especially a political history kind of a book. It was almost like a movie script, replete with brilliant anecdotes and comebacks. There were times when I laughed out loud or hit my thigh in appreciation. It looked like the authors a little biased towards Vajpayee and Congress. He came off as a bit too harsh on Advani, more so on Modi and Amit Shah, and a little too defensive of Vajpayee. But then I'm not too surprised, as the author has written on P.V. Narasimha Rao, former late PM of India, who is from Congress. I am intrigued enough to read that book as well. One of these days I sure will. I must say I was a little irritated by Vajpayee. No, let me correct that. I was disillusioned by him. I had this persona of Vajpayee ji in my mind, and that was shattered, and that was a little painful. It hurts when we realize that some icons are simply too human and were not superhumans to begin with. There were also so many stalwarts mentioned in this book that I want to dig a little deeper into their histories as well. This book made me realize that Indian non-fiction is an ocean that I can't wait to dive deeper and deeper into. I also found that this book was a bit longer than necessary because the Jugalbandi part of it was already done by 70% of the book. The rest simply seemed like unnecessary filler content that I wasn't a fan of. I gave this book 4 stars. So those were the books I completed in the month of July. Not everything went as planned, but I did read some solid books, so I must say my reading wasn't too shabby. What do you say? Have you read any of these books? Does any of these books pique your interest? Do let me know in the comment section below or hit me up in my socials. All my socials are given in the description box down below. I do post contents on reading challenges, book tags, reviews and recommendations every single week. So if bookish content like mine is your jam, then please do consider liking my videos and subscribing to my channel. And yes, please don't forget to press that bell icon. Looking forward to sharing more of my bookish thoughts with you. Let's keep the bookish conversation going. Until then, stay safe, happy and healthy. Om Shanti.